The Guardian's Promise. The stars hung like silent witnesses in the vast emptiness of space as the UNSV Vigilant cut through the darkness, its sleek hull reflecting the distant suns. Commander Elena Reyes stood at the viewport, her silhouette sharp against the cosmic backdrop. 20 years of service had etched lines around her eyes that spoke of both wisdom and weariness. "Commander, we're approaching the border coordinates," Lieutenant Park announced from his station, his voice steady despite the tension that had settled over the bridge like a cloak. Elena nodded, her gaze never leaving the stars. "Any sign of the Vorax delegation?" "Their vessel just dropped out of FTL, ma'am. They're hailing us." This was it, humanity's first official diplomatic meeting with the Vorax Imperium, a spacefaring civilization discovered just 6 months ago. Intelligence suggested they were expansionist, technologically advanced, and fiercely hierarchical. The perfect recipe for conflict if this meeting went poorly. On screen, Elena commanded, straightening her uniform and squaring her shoulders. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a being that resembled a mantis crossed with a lion. Chitinous exoskeleton, covered with a fine golden fur, 6 limbs arranged in perfect symmetry, and eyes that gleamed with an intelligence that sent a chill down Elena's spine. "Greetings, Commander Reyes," the Vorax diplomat spoke, its translator rendering the clicks and hisses into smooth English. "I am High Emissary Xarlik of the Vorax Imperium. We are pleased to establish formal communications with your species." Elena detected the hesitation, the subtle suggestion that such pleasure was not entirely sincere. "The United Earth Government welcomes you, High Emissary. We look forward to discussing the terms of peaceful coexistence between our peoples." The Vorax's mandibles twitched, a sign of amusement, perhaps. "Yes, peace, a concept we value, though our definitions may differ." The negotiations that followed were a delicate dance of words and intentions. The Vorax demanded access to several solar systems that humanity had already cataloged for future colonization. In return, they offered technological insights that, while valuable, didn't justify the territorial concessions. After 3 days of circling the same points, Elena knew they were getting nowhere. Then, during what was supposed to be a casual cultural exchange, she noticed something disturbing. The Vorax delegation showed particular interest in footage of human children playing in a colony park. "Your young are defenseless," Xarlik observed, those alien eyes focusing intently on the screen. "Yet you expend considerable resources protecting them rather than having them contribute to your society." Elena's instincts flared. "Our children are our future, High Emissary. Their protection is our highest priority." "An interesting weakness," Xarlik mused. "In our society, the young must prove their worth or become resources for the stronger." The statement was delivered casually, but Elena felt ice form in her veins. "It would be unwise to consider our dedication to our children a weakness, High Emissary. It is, in fact, our greatest strength." The talks concluded without agreement, and as the Vorax delegation prepared to depart, Elena made a point of walking Xarlik to their shuttle personally. "Before you leave, there's something you should understand about humans," she said, her voice low but clear. "We have one absolute line that no species should ever cross. Harm a human child, and you will face the full, unrestrained wrath of our species. It's not a threat, it's a promise." Xarlik's mandibles clicked rapidly. Laughter, she realized. "Bold words from a species that has barely left its cradle, Commander. The universe is harsh, and sentimentality is a luxury for those who haven't yet faced true predators." As the Vorax ship disappeared into FTL, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible had been set in motion. Her fears were confirmed 3 weeks later. "Commander," Lieutenant Park's voice cut through the quiet hum of the bridge, panic evident in his usually composed tone. "Emergency transmission from Harmony Colony. They're under attack." Elena rushed to the communications station, her heart pounding. "Put it through." The screen showed chaos, buildings aflame, colonists running in terror. The colony administrator, her face streaked with soot and blood, stared desperately into the camera. "This is Administrator Chen of Harmony Colony." The Vorax came without warning. There, a deafening explosion cut off her words momentarily. When she continued, her voice was lower, breaking with horror. "They're targeting the schools first. Oh God, the children. They're taking the children." The transmission cut to static. Silence fell over the bridge, heavy and suffocating. Then Alina spoke, her voice deadly calm. "Set course for Harmony Colony, maximum speed. Alert Fleet Command, the Vorax have attacked a human settlement and are targeting civilians, specifically children. Request all available ships to converge on our position." "That's 3 days at best," Commander Park said, already plotting the course. "Even if we—" "I know, Lieutenant," Alina interrupted, her eyes hard as flint. "But they need to know we're coming. They need to know what they've started." As the Vigilance surged toward FTL, Alina sent one final message to Earth. It contained just 4 words. They crossed the line. The Harmony Colony was a smoldering ruin by the time the Vigilant arrived. Despite pushing the engines beyond safety parameters, they were too late to prevent the devastation. The Colonial Center, once a thriving hub of human expansion, now resembled a macabre archaeological dig. The remains of a civilization wiped out in hours. Alina led the ground team herself, her environmental suit barely registering against the heat still radiating from the charred buildings. What they found sickened even the most hardened veterans among them. The Vorax had been methodical, separating adults from children before executing most of the former and harvesting the latter. In the remains of what had been the colony's primary school, they found a single survivor, a girl no older than 7, hidden in a ventilation shaft, clutching a stuffed rabbit to her chest. Her eyes were vacant, seeing horrors no child should witness. "They said we were weak," the girl whispered as Alina carried her back to the Vigilant. "They said we were just food for the strong." That night, as the child finally slept under sedation in the medical bay, Alina addressed her crew and sent the same message to every human ship, station, and colony. "Today, the Vorax Imperium made a fatal error," she began, her voice steady, despite the rage burning inside her. "They mistook our compassion for weakness. They thought our protection of our children was a flaw in our evolutionary design. They believed we would bend or break when faced with their brutality." She paused, looking at the faces of her crew. Humans from different continents, cultures, backgrounds, all united now in grief and purpose. "They were wrong. I warned their emissary personally. Harm a human child, and you won't live to regret it." They laughed. They didn't believe us. Now they will learn why that warning has been heeded by every species that has lasted long enough to become our allies. Reports began flooding in from across the border regions. The Vorax hadn't just attacked Harmony. They had launched coordinated strikes against 5 human colonies, all following the same pattern. They weren't just starting a war. They were making a statement about what they perceived as humanity's fundamental weakness. As the human fleet assembled, the largest concentration of military power Earth had ever mobilized, Alina received a transmission from High Emissary Xarlik. "Your defiance is noted, Commander, but futile," the Vorax said, its tone almost disappointed. "We studied your history. Your kind has always preyed upon itself, sacrificing your young in wars and labor. Your current sentimentality is an evolutionary dead end, one we are helping you overcome. Accept your place in the natural order." Alina's reply was calm, measured, and all the more terrifying for it. "You study our history, but you missed its most important lesson. Humanity has indeed been cruel to itself throughout its development. We've committed atrocities against our own kind that would shock even your species. But we evolved, we learned, we grew beyond that darkness." She leaned closer to the screen. "And in doing so, we channeled that ancient savagery into something else, a promise that we would never allow such horrors to happen again, especially to our children." You haven't awakened some dormant weakness. Sarlacc, you've awakened the protective fury of a species that has spent millennia learning how to destroy its enemies. The emissary's mandibles twitched, not in amusement this time, but in something that might have been the first flicker of doubt. You have one opportunity to return every child you've taken and withdraw from human space, Elena continued. After that, the Vorax Imperium will understand exactly why we value our children so fiercely. They are our future, and we will ensure they have one, no matter the cost. As the transmission ended, Elena turned to her crew. The time for diplomacy was over. The Vorax had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. Humanity unleashed. The human response was not what the Vorax expected. There was no desperate pleading, no fragmented retreat, no sacrifice of the weak to save the strong. Instead, within 72 hours of the Harmony Colony massacre, 117 human vessels had assembled at the border, not just military ships, but retrofitted civilian crafts, mining vessels with improvised weapons, and medical ships prepared for rescue operations. They came not as individuals seeking glory, but as a unified force with a single purpose: to retrieve their children and make the Vorax understand the gravity of their mistake. All ships maintain formation. Commander Elena Reyes ordered from the bridge of the UNSV Vigilant, now the flagship of this hastily assembled armada. Remember our primary objective: locate and recover the children. Everything else is secondary. But everyone knew what everything else entailed. The Vorax had to be stopped, permanently. Commander, we're detecting a large Vorax fleet moving to intercept, Lieutenant Park reported. 33 vessels, heavily armed. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Elena nodded. Let's hear what they have to say. The view screen flickered to life, showing not High Emissary Sarlacc, but a larger, more ornately armored Vorax, whose golden fur was streaked with crimson markings. Human vessels, this is War Progenitor Kazverik of the Vorax Imperium. Your intrusion into sovereign Vorax space constitutes an act of war. Withdraw immediately, or be reduced to elementary particles. Elena didn't flinch. This is Commander Elena Reyes of Earth. You entered our space first. You attacked our colonies. You took our children. There will be no withdrawal, War Progenitor. Return every child you've taken, unharmed, and perhaps we can discuss terms for your surrender. The Vorax commander's mandibles clacked in what might have been disbelief. Surrender? You delude yourself, human. Your technological inferiority is absolute. Your behavioral weakness is documented. Your extinction is merely a matter of efficiency. You've made a fundamental error in your assessment. Elena replied, her voice eerily calm. You see, humans have a peculiar quality. We hide things. From ourselves, from each other, and especially from potential threats. What you've observed of our technology, our capabilities, our resolve, it's what we allowed you to see. She leaned forward. You crossed a line. War Progenitor. Now you get to see what's on the other side. The transmission cut. Elena turned to her tactical officer. Lieutenant Rodriguez, deploy the Prometheus protocols. Rodriguez's eyes widened fractionally before he nodded and entered a complex sequence into his console. Throughout the human fleet, weapon systems that had remained dormant, officially theoretical in all diplomatic exchanges, hummed to life. The truth was, humanity had been preparing for this moment since they first looked to the stars and wondered if they were alone. Not out of paranoia, but pragmatism. History had taught them that peaceful encounters were possible, even probable, but they had to be ready for the alternative. Prometheus protocols active. Commander, Rodriguez confirmed. All ships reporting ready. Begin Phase 1, Elena ordered. The human fleet didn't charge forward in a blaze of heroic but tactically unsound aggression. Instead, they initiated a maneuver that the Vorax tactical systems couldn't even interpret. The ships appeared to fragment, each vessel seeming to split into 3 distinct signatures on Vorax sensors. Quantum mirroring engaged, Park announced. Their targeting systems are trying to compensate. The Vorax fleet fired first, particle beams lancing through space toward the human vessels, only to pass harmlessly through 2/3 of the targets. They figured out the decoys, Rodriguez noted. Adjusting mirror patterns. Elena nodded. Begin Phase 2. Target their propulsion systems only. From the human ships emerged what appeared to be standard missiles, until they abruptly changed course mid-flight, accelerating at impossible angles, slipping through the Vorax defensive fire with almost organic agility. Autonomous kinetic penetrators away, Rodriguez reported. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The explosions were almost anticlimactic, small, precise detonations that severed engine nacelles and fuel lines, rather than destroying the Vorax ships outright. 27 of the 33 vessels began to drift, their propulsion systems neutralized. Phase 2 complete, Elena said. Open a channel to the war progenitor. Kazvarik's face appeared on screen again, mandibles twitching with barely contained fury. What trickery is this, human? Not trickery, war progenitor. Just the consequences of your actions. We could have destroyed your ships. We chose not to, yet. Now, about those children. You think disabling our engines demonstrates strength. The Vorax snarled. Our warriors will fight to the last. The young you seek have already been processed into the becoming chambers. Soon, they will nourish the next generation of Vorax. Their weakness transforms into our strength. A chill swept through the bridge. Elena's face hardened. Lieutenant Park, locate the source of the Vorax communications. Find their central command. Park worked feverishly at his console. Got it, Commander. Coordinates locked. It's a planetoid near the system's edge, heavily shielded, but definitely the source. All ships, new heading. Elena commanded. We're going to the heart of this. As the human fleet repositioned, bypassing the disabled Vorax vessels and heading toward the hidden planetoid, Elena turned to her communications officer. Broadcast on all frequencies, all languages we've mapped from the Vorax databanks. I want every member of their species to hear this. She stood, facing the view screen as if addressing the entire Vorax Imperium directly. This is Commander Elena Reyes of Earth. You were warned. You were told explicitly what would happen if you harmed our children. You dismissed that warning as weakness. You are about to learn how wrong you were. She paused, letting the words sink in. Humanity has fought itself for millennia. We've devised countless ways to destroy each other. When we realized we weren't alone in the universe, we didn't abandon those technologies. We refined them, contained them, hoped we'd never need them. But we kept them, because we understood that not every species we met would value peace. The fleet approached the planetoid, now visible on their sensors as a massive installation bristling with defensive systems. You targeted our children because you thought it would break us. Instead, it has united us as nothing else could. Every human, from every nation, colony, and station, stands together now. Not in fear, not in weakness, but in a promise made long ago, that we would protect our future at any cost. The planetoid's defensive systems activated, energy weapons charging. This is your final chance, Vorax. Return our children, withdraw from human space, and never approach our worlds again. For a long moment, there was silence. Then Kazvarik's laughter rattled through the comm system. Your ultimatum is noted, human, and rejected. Your children are already being absorbed into the becoming chambers. Perhaps in their final moments, they will develop the strength their species lacks. Elena closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, any trace of mercy was gone. Lieutenant Rodriguez, initiate the Thanatos protocol. From the Vigilance hold emerged a single probe, smaller than a standard shuttle. It accelerated toward the planetoid, easily evading the defensive fire that tried to intercept it. What is this? Another of your ineffectual demonstrations. Kazvarik mocked. Elena didn't respond. She watched the probe's trajectory on the tactical display, its course unwavering as it approached the planetoid surface. Probe has reached the target, Rodriguez reported. Thanatos protocol initiating. The probe didn't explode. It simply disappeared. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a section of the planetoid surface began to distort, as if reality itself was being rewritten. The effect spread slowly at first, then with increasing speed. What is happening? Kazvarik's voice had lost its arrogance, replaced by something approaching fear. What have you done? We call it a dimensional inversion field, Alina explained, her voice clinically detached. It rewrites the quantum structure of matter, creating a localized pocket of altered physical laws. Nothing is destroyed. It's simply relocated to a space between spaces. Inaccessible. Contained. On the view screen, the effect continued to spread, consuming more of the planetoid with each passing second. Alarms blared from the Vorax transmission. This technology, it's impossible. You can't. We warned you, Alina interrupted. We told you exactly what would happen if you harmed our children. You thought it was sentiment. It was a promise. The dimensional effect suddenly halted, covering approximately 1/3 of the planetoid surface, precisely the section that housed the command center and, according to their scans, the mysterious becoming chambers. The inversion is stable, Rodriguez confirmed. Target areas are contained. Alina leaned forward. War progenitor, your command center is now separated from this reality. It can be retrieved, if we choose to do so. Whether that happens depends entirely on what we find when we board your facility. Silence hung heavy on the channel. Then, a different voice, higher, less aggressive, spoke. This is Science Director Vel Nera. War progenitor Kazvarik is unavailable. Your dimensional technology has severed our command structure. I am authorized to negotiate. There is nothing to negotiate, Alina stated flatly. You will direct us to where the human children are being held. You will surrender all Vorax forces unconditionally. You will provide complete data on these becoming chambers and how to reverse any processes already begun. A pause. And if we comply, then we'll consider restoring your command center and leaving enough of your civilization intact for you to contemplate the wisdom of respecting boundaries. The boarding operation revealed horrors that would haunt the human rescue teams for years to come. The becoming chambers were massive biological processors designed to break down inferior beings and absorb their genetic material into Vorax embryos. But the process was slow, and thanks to the rapid human response, many of the children were still alive, though traumatized. Of the 417 children taken from the human colonies, 389 were recovered alive. For the 28 who couldn't be saved, the Vorax would pay a heavy price. 3 months later, as the last of the rescued children were reunited with surviving family members or placed with adoptive parents, Alina Reyes stood before the United Earth Council. The war with the Vorax had been brief but definitive. Their empire, once spanning 12 star systems, was now reduced to their homeworld and 2 colony planets, the rest held in dimensional containment as insurance against future aggression. Commander Reyes, the Council President, began. Your actions saved countless lives and demonstrated to the Vorax, and any other hostile species watching, that humanity will defend its own. Yet some have questioned whether our response was proportionate, whether we revealed too much of our defensive capabilities too soon. Alina met the President's gaze steadily. With respect, Madam President, I disagree. We didn't reveal our full capabilities, not even close. What we showed the Vorax was precisely what they needed to see, that our protection of our children isn't an evolutionary weakness, but the foundation of our strength. She paused, looking around at the assembled representatives of humanity. Throughout our history, we've been predators, conquerors, destroyers. We've committed atrocities against our own kind that rival anything the Vorax attempted. But we evolved. We learned that our true strength lies not in domination, but in protection, in ensuring that our children never have to witness the horrors we once inflicted upon each other. The chamber was silent, absorbing her words. The Vorax needed to understand this, and now they do. They know that if they ever harm a human child again, what they experienced wasn't our full response. It was our warning shot. As she left the council chamber, Alina received a notification on her personal device. The little girl they'd found hidden in the ventilation shaft at Harmony Colony, Sophia was her name, had drawn a picture. It showed a human in a uniform standing between a child and a monster, with stars all around them. Beneath it, in wobbly letters, were the words, "They won't hurt us again." Commander Rice promised. And in that moment, Alina knew that everything, the lives lost, the technological secrets revealed, the difficult decisions made, had been worth it. Because Sophia was right. The Vorax would not hurt them again. Humanity had made a promise, and humanity kept its promises.